What if the face of evil wasn't hiding in the shadows, but driving right beside you on the highway? And what if the only person standing between a psycho killer and the destruction of an entire city was a woman already broken from losing everything? This isn't just the story of a serial killer. This is the story of obsession, revenge, fear, and a man who believed he was sacrificing souls for the devil himself. So stay till the end, because the final twist of this movie will seriously mess with your mind. The movie begins on a dark highway at night, where several police cars are aggressively chasing a suspicious vehicle. The officers already had a bad feeling about the car, like something about it just didn't feel right. As soon as they finally force the vehicle to stop, the driver secretly pulls out a gun and hides it beneath his leg before the cops can notice. One officer slowly approaches the window and starts questioning him, but the man barely responds. His face is never shown clearly, which somehow makes the whole scene even more unsettling. The silence coming from him feels cold, unnatural, like he already knows what's about to happen. Right at that moment, another police car arrives at the scene, and Officer Jane steps out of the vehicle. She walks over and asks if everything is under control. The officer calmly reassures her that everything is fine and tells her she can leave. But just as Jane is about to drive away, she glances into her rearview mirror and notices the suspect arguing aggressively with her husband. Something about the way he moves instantly makes her nervous. She quickly decides to turn the car around. But before she can even reach them, bang! The mysterious man shoots her husband dead. By the time Jane rushes over, it's already too late. Her husband dies right in front of her eyes. Heartbroken and furious, she immediately tries to shoot the killer, but the man escapes before she gets a clear shot. And even during all this chaos, his face still remains hidden from the audience. The next scene shows the killer hiding inside a dirty hotel room while news channels blast reports about him on television. According to the news, this psycho had already murdered 16 people, including a dangerous weapons dealer, yet the police still had no idea where he was hiding. The killer silently watches the broadcast, fully aware that the entire country is searching for him. But instead of panicking, he almost looks calm, like he's enjoying the fear he's spreading. Inside the hotel, he enters a strange hidden room filled with disturbing symbols and sleeps there while keeping a shotgun close beside him for emergencies. The atmosphere of the room feels satanic, cursed, almost like a place built for rituals instead of sleep. The following day, the killer is seen stalking a young woman outside a pharmacy. He waits patiently like a predator watching prey. Hours later, the woman finally leaves the pharmacy and gets into her car, only to discover that the killer was already sitting inside, silently waiting for her. Before she can even scream properly, he brutally murders her. Then he calmly takes the pharmacy keys from her body, walks inside the store and steals several strange medicines and chemicals. Meanwhile, Jane is completely shattered emotionally. On one side, she's grieving the loss of her husband, and on the other, she's being tortured by the fact that the police still haven't caught the man responsible. But before she even has time to process her pain, breaking news appears once again. The killer has murdered another woman. That's when Jane realizes something horrifying. This man isn't killing for money. He isn't killing out of anger. He's a true psychopath, a monster who enjoys death itself. And if nobody stops him soon, more innocent people are going to die. So Jane makes a promise to herself. No matter what happens, she will hunt this man down personally. She starts collecting evidence obsessively, studying every crime scene, every pattern, every tiny clue he leaves behind. But while she's trying to build a case against him, the killer continues his massacre. By the time her investigation progresses, the psycho has already crossed 32 victims. Eventually, Jane decides she can't sit at home waiting anymore. The situation had become so terrifying that the FBI officially takes over the case. But even they struggle to make progress because this killer is always one step ahead. Since Jane herself is a police officer, she knows deep down that this case has become personal. If anyone is going to solve it, it has to be her. Soon after, the movie shows the killer driving down an isolated road late at night when he notices a stranded couple beside a broken car. The boyfriend is outside changing a tire while the girlfriend waits inside nervously. The killer slowly parks his car nearby, wears a terrifying mask, grabs a metal rod from his trunk, and walks toward them. Without warning, he smashes the boyfriend's skull in with a single horrifying strike. The girlfriend hears the scream and rushes outside, only to see her boyfriend lying dead on the road. She freezes in horror. Then slowly, she turns around. The masked killer is standing right behind her. At that moment, she realizes she's about to die too. Terrified, she runs for her life, but panic blinds her completely. In desperation, she accidentally runs into the middle of the road and gets hit by an incoming truck. The truck driver desperately tries to brake but loses control. The truck flips over, explodes violently because it's carrying oil, and the driver dies in the blast as well. And through all this chaos, the killer just stands there calmly watching the flames. Then he walks toward the dead boyfriend's body and draws a satanic symbol on his chest using blood. That's when the movie finally reveals the horrifying truth. This man worships Satan, and every murder is part of some twisted sacrifice ritual. News about the massacre spreads everywhere, forcing the FBI to intensify the investigation. Jane approaches the agents and tells them she knows a lot about the killer because he murdered her husband. She offers to help solve the case, but the FBI agent leading the operation arrogantly refuses her help. Still, one FBI detective named Rebecca secretly believes Jane can help. She can see the pain in Jane's eyes, but also the determination. So later, Rebecca secretly meets Jane at a hotel and shares classified evidence from the investigation. According to the FBI's findings, the killer constantly changes hotels and intentionally leaves clues behind. Rebecca explains that these murders aren't random. Every killing follows a disturbing pattern, meaning the killer is working towards something much bigger. They even investigate one of the hotels where the killer stayed. Inside the room, they find strange satanic symbols painted everywhere. Jane uses laptop to continue digging deeper into the case and finally discovers the killer's real name, Richard. Now Jane and Rebecca start asking themselves the scariest question of all. What is Richard planning next? Before they can figure it out, news suddenly breaks about a bombing inside a shopping mall. Investigators discover that the bomb used materials stolen from the same weapons dealer Richard previously murdered. At the same time, Richard is shown preparing for another gruesome kill. He sharpens a metal pipe until it becomes razor sharp, then enters a church the next morning pretending to seek guidance from a priest. He tricks the priest into entering a private room, and once the priest lets his guard down, Richard brutally stabs him through the throat with the sharpened pipe. But what happens next is even more disturbing. Richard drinks the priest's blood from the other side of the pipe like some kind of demon. Meanwhile, Jane finally tracks Richard down to one of his hotel rooms. She cautiously searches the room with her gun raised. Everything feels too quiet, too empty. Then she notices a suspicious suitcase. Nearby, hidden inside the bathroom, there's a shotgun waiting like a trap. Suddenly, Richard attacks her from behind. Jane barely survives. A brutal hand-to-hand fight breaks out between them. The two fight savagely across the room, smashing furniture and crashing into walls. But in the end, Richard overpowers her and throws her straight through a window before escaping in his car. Jane survives, but mentally she's devastated. She came so close to catching him, and still failed. However, while investigating the room afterward, she discovers several important clues Richard accidentally left behind. Those clues eventually lead her to understand his next terrifying move. Meanwhile, Richard contacts a satanic cult after seeing their advertisement in a newspaper. He pretends to be one of them and meets the group inside a creepy mansion filled with drug addicts performing disturbing rituals. Richard quickly realizes these people are fake Satanists just pretending to worship evil for fun. But one member named Calvin seems different. Calm, intelligent, not insane like the others. Richard trusts him enough to remove his mask in front of him and asks Calvin to help locate a certain man whose identity he doesn't fully know. Calvin successfully tracks the man down and gives Richard his address, phone number, and information. Before leaving, Richard quietly warns Calvin not to join the others during their next ritual because he's not like them. Calvin doesn't understand why Richard said that, until later that night. Richard returns to the mansion carrying gasoline and an axe. Then he massacres every single cult member inside the ritual room in one of the movie's most brutal scenes. Blood covers the walls as he hacks them apart mercilessly before setting the entire mansion on fire. Just as he's about to leave, he notices someone hiding outside. It's Jane. Richard cleverly hangs his mask on a stick and moves it toward the window. Jane instantly shoots, destroying the mask. but realizes she's been tricked. Richard escapes once again, crashing Jane's car into a ditch during the chase before disappearing into the darkness. Jane becomes furious, especially because the FBI arrived late despite her warning them earlier. Their refusal to trust her allowed Richard to escape again. On the other side, Richard begins preparing his biggest plan yet. He breaks into the basement of a man named Bill who turns out to be the manager of a nuclear power plant. Richard kidnaps Bill and threatens to murder his wife if he refuses to cooperate. At the same time, Jane follows more clues left behind by Richard and discovers the mysterious message, 3 miles. After thinking carefully, she realizes it refers to 3 Mile Island, the nuclear facility. Suddenly, everything clicks together in her mind. Richard's real goal isn't just murder anymore. He wants to destroy the nuclear plant and wipe out the entire city. And if the reactor explodes, radiation will spread to nearby towns as well, killing thousands more over time. This wasn't the plan of a serial killer anymore. This was terrorism on a catastrophic level. Richard forces Bill to help him enter the plant and murders several guards using bombs and a shotgun before taking control of the control room. He forces the terrified employees out at gunpoint while Jane races toward the facility trying to stop him. Soon alarms start ringing across the entire plant. Security finally realizes Jane was right all along. Inside the facility, guards lie dead everywhere while workers panic in fear. Richard forces Bill to activate the reactor systems. Bill desperately refuses at first, but when Richard threatens his wife again, he finally gives in. And once Richard gets what he wants, he murders Bill too. Then comes the most horrifying moment in the movie. Richard reveals bombs strapped all over his own body. He's ready to die just to complete his satanic mission. Outside, Jane desperately tells the FBI that negotiation won't work because Richard doesn't care about surviving. He has already murdered over 50 people and fully intends to destroy himself along with the city. As the FBI struggles to break into the control room, Jane notices a sniper angle through an upper window. She immediately takes the shot, shattering the bulletproof glass and hitting Richard in the legs so he can't escape. But even wounded, Richard still manages to activate part of the detonation system. Jane realizes there's no other choice left. With tears in her eyes, she empties multiple bullets into him, finally killing the monster who destroyed her life and murdered dozens of innocent people. But even after Richard dies, the bombs remain active. At any second, the entire city could still explode. Thankfully, the bomb squad manages to deactivate the explosives just in time. The city is finally saved. But the movie isn't over yet. In the post-credits scene, the audience discovers a shocking twist. Richard didn't actually die immediately after Jane shot him. He survived and was secretly transferred into police custody while being transported to a maximum security prison. And that leaves one terrifying question hanging in the air. Can a monster like Richard ever truly be contained? Even long afterward, Jane continues living in fear, haunted by the thought that one day this psycho killer might escape and begin killing again. She tries to move on with her life, but the trauma never fully leaves her. And with that deeply unsettling ending, the movie comes to a close. This movie teaches us that evil doesn't always look insane on the outside. Sometimes it hides behind silence, patience, and intelligence. And when obsession mixes with darkness, it can destroy not only lives, but humanity itself. If you enjoyed this chilling story, hit subscribe, because the next movie we're covering might be even more disturbing than this one.